Hi, my name is Tim Boyd, and I'm the Academic Dean here at MBA. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to get a chance to meet virtually to talk about your course registration options for next year and overall the academic life at MBA and how we hope that you'll be adjusting to it. Before we begin that, though, let me first of all say welcome to MBA. We're greatly looking forward to having you with us on the campus in the fall. And I should say right at the outset that we don't admit that many students into the high school each year, so it should tell you something about how highly we think of you as a student and as an individual, that we are going to be welcoming you here in August. So the point of this video is just to give you a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be talking about when we have our meetings, and to give you some sense of some questions you might want to think about before we talk in person. So to get things moving, 4 things I really want to talk about in this video. First of all, just what the meetings will be like. Then I'll talk a little bit about what a typical day at MBA looks like, and in particular, a typical freshman schedule. I realize not all of you are entering into the 9th grade, so it'll be different if you're entering into the 10th or 11th. But most of you are entering into the 9th grade, and will still give me something to talk about in terms of what your expectations might be. I'll say a little bit about some other elements of academic life at MBA, including what you might anticipate in terms of homework in your various classes, and also how we do grades and comments. So first of all, the registration meetings themselves. I would expect them to take around 30 minutes. They tend to when we do them in person. I'd expect them to take the same amount of time online. I should say also, though, that if any questions are unresolved during those 30 minutes, there'll be plenty of opportunities to have follow-up conversations if we need to. We would need the student to be present, and at least one parent, ideally both parents if available, for that conversation. We will do 3 things during that time. We will look at the course selections for next year specifically. We'll also talk about overall expectations, and then thirdly, we'll talk a little bit about selecting a high school advisor for you. You may already know that all boys at MBA have an advisor through their time in the high school, and we'll ask you some questions to see which sort of person might make a good fit for you. At the moment, everyone has a scheduled appointment. If you need to change it for any reason, please call Kit Leckleiter in the admissions office. We can obviously find another time if for any reason what you originally had planned doesn't work out. So let me say a little bit about the typical academic day at MBA, just so you know how the school works. Each day is broken down into 8 academic periods. The first begins at 8 o'clock, but before that, every student is expected to be on campus by 7:50 for their advisory period. So this is where they'll be in a group of about 8 to a dozen other boys from different grades, and they'll meet with their advisor, take attendance, go through announcements, and so on. 7:50 is when you're expected to be at school. From 7:30 onwards in the morning, though, all faculty will be available, and those morning help sessions can be very useful if you're having difficulties in the class, if there's a test coming up, if you have questions about assignments, or just to get to know your teachers in general. We also have a break on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and an assembly on Monday in the middle of the day. Every single class at MBA will meet every day. We do have a rotating schedule, so several of the periods will change the order they're meeting during the day, but we will explain all that to you during course registration in August. The key thing to remember, though, is that every class here will meet for a 50-minute period every single day. One of those periods during the day will be your lunch period. It'll be either the 5th or the 6th period if you're in the high school. Also, to help you think about your course selections, a minimum of 5 periods during the day will be academic classes. And once a week, you will have an additional academic period during the day, which is essentially a lab period, so sort of a double science period. And that'll be either on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. As I said, the most important thing we're going to be looking at in our virtual meetings is which classes you'll take next year. And there's a fair amount of variation, but to give you a kind of an overview, typically all 9th graders will take English 1. They will take either Algebra 1 or Geometry, depending on what your previous math course was. You will all take Biology, and you will all take either Latin 1 or Latin 2, again, depending on whether you've taken Latin before. MBA does require 2 years of Latin as a minimum for graduation, so if you have taken a year already, you'll only have 1 more year to do. If you haven't yet taken any Latin, you'll have 2 years of Latin beginning next year. Now, one of the questions we will be looking at is whether you will be taking these courses at the regular or the honors level, and that's something we'll be able to discuss when we meet one-on-one. So those are the 4 core classes that all 9th graders will be expected to take. You then have a choice in terms of a 5th or potentially even a 6th class. And the main choices here are you could take a modern language class as your 5th or 6th class, and the 4 we offer are Chinese, French, German, and Spanish. You could take civics, which is considered a history class, or you could take a fine arts course, which could be visual art, theater, music, chorus, orchestra, or jazz band. As I say, you have to take at least a 5th class. You can take 2 of these and make it a 6-course load. As a default, we would say that there are sometimes good reasons for taking 6 classes, but if there is no good reason to take a 6th class, then we would strongly recommend freshmen beginning with 5 classes. So that's the broad overview of part of our discussion when we meet in person, which 5th class to add, which classes you might take regular level, which classes you might be interested in taking at the honors level. And to address very quickly, some teachers, some classes, I should say, will make their decision on regular or honors based on your previous year's grades. Others will ask you for some written work. The English classes would ask you for some written work to see if you should be in regular or honors or what they recommend. And just occasionally, if it's a language class, modern language class, we might ask you to have a conversation with a language teacher to figure out what level of that language would be the best fit for you. Each of those classes would be expected to assign you homework every single day. And this can be something to be a little anxious about when you first arrive at MBA. We do have a reputation for giving a lot of homework. I should say that really we try and set up the day so that you would have at most an hour to an hour and a half once you get home at the end of the day. So stories you might have heard about 4 or 5 hours worth of homework a night, that could only happen if someone hadn't made a good use of their time on previous days or during their study halls or anything like that. It's designed to leave you with maybe an hour and a half once you get home in the evenings. So that is to say, you should expect about 30 minutes of homework per day per class that you are in. So if you are taking 6 classes, you obviously have more homework on a daily average than if you're taking 5. Each department will also have potentially a couple of test days per week. So part of that is also designed to spread out the homework load. In other words, you should never face a situation where you have 4 or 5 tests or quizzes on the same day, which obviously would make the previous night's homework particularly intense. So the idea here is to spread the homework load out across the week. You will also have study halls during the day that you can use to get a jump start on your homework. So if you are taking 5 classes, for example, you will have 2 full study hall periods every single day. So if you do the math from earlier, if you're taking 5 classes and you have about 2.5 hours of homework assigned in those classes, you have an hour, just over an hour and a half of time during the school day, which could leave you with less than an hour by the end of it if you use it very efficiently. You also have a lunch period, you have break during the school day, so there's plenty of time to get a jump start on the homework assignments. It is worth noting that the day when you have a lab period, you will lose a study hall that day because that's where the lab period will slot in. But again, the goal of homework is to be manageable, to help you prepare for tests and quizzes and longer term projects in the class. And we try and structure the days and the week such that it doesn't become overloading and that there's plenty of time to get done what you need to get done. Also to say a little bit about how grading works at MBA. So MBA operates a numeric grading scale, so a 0 to 100 scale. The academic year is divided into 4 quarters. So we're currently now in the 4th quarter. Each quarter has a mid-quarter reporting period. So that means that over the course of the year, you will receive grades 8 times. So 4 times at the mid-quarter, 4 times at the full quarter. Only the quarter grades are in any sense official. That is used to calculate credit or factored into GPAs or any kind of formal use. The mid-quarter grades are usually intended to be kind of progress snapshots, either to be reassuring that things are going well, or to be kind of a sign that something might need to change and giving you plenty of time still to do something about it before any official grades are entered. Teachers will also provide comments 3 times a year. Those comments will happen at the 1st quarter, at the end of the 2nd quarter / the 1st semester, and at the end of the 3rd quarter. And again, these comments are designed to either let you know that things are going well and that you should continue on the path you're on, or to highlight some areas where you might improve, or to talk about some difficulties you might be having, and again, addressing ways that you might go about strengthening how you're doing in the class. At the end of the year, your advisor will also write a comment about how your year has gone as a whole, but there are no formal teacher comments at the end of the year. All of this is done online as well, so your grades and comments are all available through our online platform, which is known as Scholar. Parents and students both have access to this platform. It's worth checking regularly. It's also worth being mindful not to obsess over scores and grades every single day. It's quite likely that there will be a bad test or a bad quiz or a low grade at some point during the year. And if it happens early on in a quarter, it can look really, really bad. But the important thing there is not to worry too much. Just keep an eye on how things are going. And this is advice for students and parents alike. And if you do have a concern, so please reach out to myself, to advisors, to faculty. There's a lot of people here to support you if you have questions. Which brings me to my final topic, which is the adjustment it will be adapting to life, academic life at MBA. The thing to say is it is likely to be challenging. Even if you've been an excellent student with excellent grades all through school to this point, it's going to be an adjustment to change schools for the high school. It's going to be an adjustment in terms of the pattern of the day, the dynamics of the classroom, the structure of the classes, the teachers are all going to be new. So that is all to say, expect things to feel a little different and to be somewhat of a challenge in those first few weeks. If you do notice this, then please talk with your advisor, your teachers, or the academic office about difficulties that you may encounter. We are expecting the adjustment of a new student to involve some challenges, and we want to be able to help those. The worst thing you can do in that situation is not talk to someone and let things develop where they become more problematic. The best thing you can do is to share that something is a concern and make use of the resources that we have here to support you. I would also say, don't be worried if you do see a slight drop in grades that you are used to at the beginning of the year. This is most likely a sign the type of assessment is a little bit different. Again, the adjustment of the new classroom, new dynamics, new teachers, and so on could all result in that. And we have excellent support here to help students make that adjustment, whether it's the teachers themselves, whether it's academic support staff, whether it's peer tutors. There is a broad network of resources to help you if you do have any challenges in any of your classes. So that brings me to the end of this video today. I'm greatly looking forward to meeting each of you and talking through these questions with you. This should hopefully give you something to think about ahead of our meetings. Again, I will also say these meetings are not a one-shot deal. There could well be unresolved questions at the end of them, in which case we will talk and meet again. But above all, I'm looking forward to it, looking forward to welcoming you virtually in the next couple of weeks and then in person in August.